Morning, everyone. Thank you for making it. I hope this is something that is worth your time, and I'm gonna uh, keep it very succinct and relevant to the majority of the group, which I'm sensing will be entrepreneurs or uh, some some uh, some wanting to take that final leap over the other side to be a founder. And I've put together a brief presentation, and I'll walk you through all of it. And at the end of the day, of course, we'll have time for the Q&A. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. There you go. Yeah, hope this is visible to everybody. So my name is Ankit. I've been with Middle East Venture Partners for close to 3 years now. Before that, I anchored another fund in Dubai, and before that, I invested in VC in India across categories of internet, consumer internet, and SaaS. And before that, B school. Before that, a career in sell side investment banking, and I'm a undergrad in economics from Delhi University, India. So very quickly, I'll walk you through what we're going to talk about today. Uh, uh, Primarily, what's funding all about, and where and how do investors and uh, entrepreneurs reach an equilibrium around fundraising. I'll also try and touch upon how that works at various stages of investing. What are the milestones that entrepreneurs need to hit to make themselves attractive to the investors. I'll talk a little bit about what are the different modes of financing, uh, and yet again, when entrepreneurs are trying to raise every single round, what are the key things they should be looking at in their investing partners. And then finally, I'll touch briefly upon what are the various options outside of VC funding that are also available to you if you want to go that route, or if VC funding does not work out to you, and is what are the options available. But before that, very quickly, I want to talk about these guys. And the reason why I have them right up at the start of this talk is because I think it's important for me to clear the flip side out of the way. So let's talk about these guys. I don't know if many on the panel or among the attendees here know about Basecamp. Basecamp is an everyday tool for developers, project managers, or tech teams all over the world. Founded by a guy called Jason Fried, who first launched the company, I think, over 10 years ago. So who are these guys? These guys are basically based out of the US, and they started in, at the bottom left, you can see that they started off in 2004 with basically 45 accounts for a SaaS company. That's pretty decent, but when you're not pricing it attractively, it's a very humble start. Fast track a couple of years, they almost scaled to 90,000 users, and ever since then they've scaled it, and at some point in 2020 they were estimated to have 3.3 million accounts signed up. If on the top left of the screen, if you look at the few points that I've added, those points are around how they price themselves. What is the estimated revenue of this company, which is around $4 billion, and at 10 times the median EV over revenue multiple for SaaS startups, this is possibly a $40 billion company, right? Which is not shabby at all. A few days ago, rather months ago, the same company launched Hey, which is an email service, probably the only service of its kind which had a wait list, I think that ran into 3 million users. And this is basically just Basecamp trying to eat Gmail's lunch, or for that matter, even Outlook's. So what's so amazing about this company is that they're bootstrapped, fully bootstrapped for 15 years now. They're profitable and they're proud. The reason why I want to talk about this right at the outset was was to show you the other side of how corporates and tech startups can scale and create a lot of value, not just for the founder but also the employees. So one of the key reasons why Basecamp as a company does not offer ESOP is that they feel that offering ESOPs incentivizes the team to work harder than they should and compromise on lifestyle, for example. And they say, look, we don't have pressure to return VC money. We don't have pressure to return angels money. We are bootstrapped. We grow at a decent rate, and we are profitable. And you can work for 8 hours in a day and get out of here and have a life outside office. So that's also a way in which you can create multi-billion-dollar companies. And I want that to be a message out of this conversation as well. Now moving on, if you don't want to bootstrap, what are the options available to you? So you could rob a bank. I would not encourage you or any of us to do that, but that's not an option. So don't go that route. Let's look at the classic revenue curve of how companies now, startups now raise funds. Now, if you look at if you move from left to right on the axis and look at the section that talks about angels and family and friends and seed capital, you'll see that right at the bottom of the graph, there is something called the value of debt. And this is not to scare anybody, but this is just to highlight how a huge fraction of startups tend to fall in that value of debt at this stage. For the purpose of this conversation, we will keep it limited to fundraisers pre-Series B, because Series B onwards, frankly, the pressure of fundraising is equally divided between the investors, rather more on the existing investors than the founders. But for this conversation, like I said, we'll keep it limited to some angel, seed, and Series A rounds. So when you look at the first section before the dotted line on the graph, you'll see at the bottom there's a value of debt. And the reason why there's a lot of companies that tend to fall in this value of debt is because of the orange graph that grows, which is the graph of revenue, which basically tells you that a lot of companies fail to figure out the monetization model during the angel and the seed stage. And there's a very significant number of companies that just cease to exist, or in some cases also pivot. But once you hit the break even and you get to the early stage of fundraising, that revenue graph, that monetization has to really pick up. A lot of consumer internet startups, especially in the social space, may not have to show a revenue generation capability to this extent as such. But then I think for them, the KPIs will change around the daily active users. But majority of the startups do need to show this trend of revenue to be able to keep attracting venture capital money. Once you enter the third stage, this is mostly late stage financing. Late stage financing, by that time, there's so much that has changed, even with the way the entrepreneur functions. if if some of those milestones around business plans have been delivering, then fundraising at the third round, which is kind of like your Series C, and the rounds later on is not too much of a problem. Another thing is that at this stage, strategic M&A becomes a very viable option. Not as viable in MENA maybe, because we tend to lag in that space, but globally, post your Series C or Series C onwards rather, strategic M&As become a very viable route of exit, both to the founder and to the investor. And I don't want to talk about IPOs, etc. But so what you have to be conscious about is initially figure out a revenue model. That revenue model may not have to show immediate offshoots to begin with, but be very conscious, because that may be one of the reasons why future financing may not fructify. So I think a founder needs to be sensitive to that, especially at the seed stage. That why are my users going to pay me? How much are they going to pay me? And what is the best way for me to make sure that the business is defensible from a fundraising point of view? Moving on, I want to talk about three sets of investors, especially angels, seed, and Series A investors. So let's talk about angels, right? Typically, when you want to go and talk to an angel, and you go to an angel, and let's say you present a simple problem statement to the angel, something around, you've worked in the space of kids or mother care, and you want to build a solution for working parents who are hard pressed for time. The typical question that the angel will come back to you will be around two things. One, have you seen Money Heist? Which is very important for angels. I'm kidding. What they're looking for is the team. They want to see whom have you assembled, whom have you got in the pipeline, who are you? Are you the professor? And it's a very gut feeling of can this team deliver or not? And that's why you see that a lot of our founders, and not wrongly so, derive a lot of self-worth from where they had been in their career. So they make it a point of saying, I'm ex-Google or ex-Microsoft, or these days ex-Uber is kind of like the new ex-Google. The ex-Uber is the new ex-Google, right? So angels are very interested in your team. So make sure if you're walking into an angel's office for a discussion, make sure at least this part of the equation is covered. You have a story to tell, and then you have the team around you to make it exciting for you. The second thing that the angels would like to talk about is usually Tom Cruise and his popular statement in the movie Jerry Maguire, "Show me the money," because this is the class of investors who have a day job, full-time day job. So more often than not, they're not the ones who are most up to date on what is the latest unicorn on the planet, what was the last most profitable IPO. So you have to make sure that you sell them the big picture, show them the big picture. And the big picture includes showing them some of your peers in that space globally who've returned a lot of money for their investors, and the addressable market. That's also very important, very crucial. And I think that along with the team and along with the big picture on what this can mean from an addressable market and the size of the corporations that can be created together, those two things together can really embolden a founder's case for a successful angel round, or even friends and family. So this is about angel financing, right? The next round of financing I want to throw some light on is the seed financing. And when you get to seed, your problem statement has mostly evolved, right? From the point of view from the point when you were speaking to the angel and telling him that you have the background and you have a solution in mind and you want to see if you can work on that solution, to a seed discussion where you say that you have the solution now for for this market who are working parents in this case, and now you want to produce it. One second. And now you want to produce it. So, and the seed the seed investor most probably is going to ask you two questions. Okay. When you go about producing something, who are your partners? And these partners can be manufacturing partners if you're a hardware startup, or a tech partner, or a reseller partner. And then finally, they'll ask you about what does this product look like, because even if you have a prototype or a beta in place, the seed stage investors will evaluate very thoroughly for the efficacy of the product. So how do you convince them, right? So you had a product in mind and you have some partners around it, and now you know what the solution is. So when you go and meet the seed guy, make sure you take the solution with you. So if it's a beta of a mobile app, make sure you have it. If it's a beta of a SaaS product, make sure you have it. If it's a beta of a fintech payment solution, wallet, make sure you have it, so that you create the wow factor in that meeting when the seed investor tests it, because they'll test it. So in this case, you had a solution for working parents, and now you have it, and you want to show the seed guy. And let's look at some Windows 90 style animation now. Here you go. This is a perfect solution for working parents who are hard pressed for time. They have put a pram on a scooter like thing, right? And when you take the scooter to the seed investor, he will test it. I can promise you, he will be running on that scooter with probably a doll in the basket. And at that moment, if it tests well, you would have walked out of that room having raised anywhere between 500K to $2 million. But that's what the seed guy wants to see. Is your prototype ready? Is your beta ready? Can this take $1 million and use that $1 million in the right direction? And if you show him something that works, a successful beta, then like I said, you would have walked out of the room the same way you walked out of the angel with some money in your pocket. So having done the seed, and probably a founder will consume the seed investment in 12 months time. So a year down the road, when you go and start your Series A meetings, what are you thinking about, right? So you go to the Series A guy now and you tell him that I have thought of a solution. I had the partners to produce it. I can now produce it at scale because my partners have the capacity through which I can scale this. And now I want to sell it. So there was ideation, there was prototype, and now you want to sell it. And this is where the Series A guys come in. And that's why your fundraise is now hitting around $5 million. And what you have to talk about here is or rather the picture you want to project is that you have all your ducks in order, and now is only a function of writing the check and fueling the distribution channels with the money. So what will the Series A guy mostly ask you? First, the PMF, the product market fit. So three things, right? Product, the market, and the fit. Product is possibly the product that you can successfully demo. They're always demo at Series and stage. Market, he a serious Series A investor will always do Q&A with your consumers, enterprise as well as consumer, right? If you're a SaaS startup and if you have 15 clients, a serious Series A investor will take feedback from at least two or three of your clients. If you're a consumer internet startup, then one of the easiest ways to gather feedback is just app ratings and possibly the environment in the business from Glassdoor. You test the product himself, offer it to 10 friends of his. So that's the way to get market feedback. And then the fit, and the fit is immediately visible in the past 3 or 4 months of traction. So that's PMF. If that's successful, that's a check. And scale is a leap of faith at Series A. I'll tell you why. Because by seed, you've not really proven scale as such. What you've proven is maybe rapid growth, right? So maybe you have gone from 10 users to 200,000 users, for example, or 50,000 users, and that is traction. But scale is 5 million users, and that is the leap of faith. And when a Series A investor checks on scale, just be sure that both you and the investor are chasing the right North Star, because this is around the time when the KPIs start to get crystallized. Make sure you present the KPIs that you want to chase really well, and make sure you are agreeing on a plan right at the outset. A lot of Series A investors tend to think that there are just hacks available everywhere, and you just need to there are 10 hacks available, pick one and you can scale to 5 million users. That's not always the case, right? Especially in MENA, user acquisition is very expensive. So when he writes a $5 million check and says, okay, 2 million in marketing at a CAC of, I don't know, $8, then make sure you agree on those deliverables, and make sure that when he talks about scale, he talks about scale in the same specifics as you do. It's very important to align on some of those deliverables. Now, typically for a Series A startup, I just want to talk about when is the business ready for a Series A. SaaS, I think for SaaS startups, you're possibly looking at around $1 million in ARR. You could be 20% shy of that. The most classic question I hear is that if I have $1 million in ARR, I will be profitable, and that should take you back to the base camp discussion. But that's around the time when it starts to become interesting for Series A. For e-commerce, your run rate GMV has to be around $5 million. So think about doing around $500 US on a monthly basis. That's when you become interesting for a Series A. And social is difficult to guess, but I'm guessing around 100,000 users, between 50 and 100,000 users. This starts to become interesting for the Series A investors. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about Series B or onwards, because that's a different discussion altogether. So the variables around Series B and from there on are very different compared to the variables up to Series A. So these are the key things that investors want, right? But another aspect of fundraising is, a lot of people call it like dating leading to marriage, and that's not far off from how this works. So you meet and interact, and then finally in a month's time you tend to agree on on the personalities and the way the VC looks at businesses. And just one second, I'm getting okay, I'm getting some questions. I think we are going to take care of this later. So, like I was saying, that this is kind of like dating leading to a marriage, and it's very. And what you should know is that you have an equal say in that relationship until the point you enter it, and later on. So, I want to focus on what are some of the things that you should be looking for when you go for your conversations. So let's begin with angels. One of the things that really differentiates an investor is one of the key things that differentiates an angel investor is his experience. So it doesn't have to come from tech. It doesn't have to come from any sort of specific industry in which you want to play. But make sure that if it's 20 years of experience, make sure it's achieved doing the right things. So raising money from I don't know, somebody who runs a whole lot of salons, for example, may be relevant for schedule, but may not be relevant for Angami, right? So make sure they have experience and they are well-rounded in that experience. Network is very key, because more often than not, you don't need one angel. You need a couple more. And angels are constantly talking. They are always they're on the phone every day about something that caught their interest. What you don't want to do at the angel round is wait for too long for it to come together. So if you go to an angel who introduce let's say to a couple of another friends, that is your time to market is really shortened. So make sure you're meeting somebody who has some sort of network behind it. Time is very crucial. This guy cannot take forever to make a decision. So his time is very important. Your time is very important at this stage, because imagine your situation, right? You just quit a job, or you're serving a notice, you're thinking of something, or you just graduated, and you want to start something. And the last thing you want is somebody wasting your time. And people who waste time are angels who haven't done it enough. So make sure that you value your time, and in a couple of meetings, you can gauge interest very successfully. Make sure this angel is also an advisor, and that's why the experience comes in really handy, because although a lot of founders are well-rounded, there are aspects to the business, and so many of them, in which you may really need a lot of advice. So make sure this angel that you have on board also has a few interesting anecdotes or some connections or some insights up his sleeves that he can share with you. Those will be the 4 very important factors, and of course the check, right? So those will be the 5 most important things when you're looking for for your angel. Let's move on to seed now. It's all about speed for the seed guys, and one of the names I want to mention here right now is the 500 startups guys. I think they are the perfect seed partners. They are very good at decision making in a time efficient manner. They have various offices across MENA, so a founder in Egypt doesn't have to worry to fly to the Dubai office, or I think they have a small office in Bahrain as well. So that is the sort of seed partner you want to work with, who can work at speed and have figured out a network that facilitates quick interactions and a time efficient yes or a no. That's very important for seed. The speed at which they work. Terms are very important. Some of the seed people can offer you crazy terms. They can I mean, I've seen term sheets or rounds in which the seed investors have taken 40% of the business, uh, have have taken 40% discount in safe investments. They've capped the safe investment at $50 million. None of that is none of that is helpful at all. So make sure you do your reading of what is the median discount, valuation caps, instruments when you have these before having these discussions. So terms are very important at these days. Uh, Team is very crucial at seed. The reason why I say that is because when you're running seed, after you raise the seed round, uh, that is when you start testing your products, trying to make them, get a team on board if you don't have it already, fill out some of these important missing links. And if you have a seed team behind you that is willing to help you in across these factors, then that's what you want. You don't want a suboptimal seed investor who is dormant in nature. Very few seed guys, by the way, are dormant. Okay, they are most of them are very active, and they take a lot of interest in your business, and they're fast, and they're really agile. And if you can find a seed investor who also has some sort of network in China or India or US, even better, because then knowledge transfer is faster. At the product development stage, a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck at simple things, but they don't know their way out. And it's the responsibility of the seed guy to help them out at these points. Finally, appetite. Okay, make sure your seed investors are not writing $50,000, $100,000 checks, because you're typically raising 1 to 1.5. And if your seed investor is taking all this time to give you 100K, then you're possibly looking at 10 or 11 checks. You don't want to do that. So make sure some of these seed guys have appetite, and the rest of your funds can come from again, another round with the angels maybe, who love to sort of follow on when you have your seed lead arranged. When you have a lead for your seed, a lot of the angels like to follow on. So make sure that these seed guys have appetite to lead a seed. So those will be the 4 key factors for to look for when you're picking your seed investor as well. Finally, Series A. When you talk to your Series A, the things that you should look for is, first of all, establish can they lead the round or not. A lot of Series A investors have a lot of exposure to Series A investments, but they shy away from leading. So make sure right at the outset that just establish whether they have the appetite for leading the round or not. Make sure that these Series A partners can give you access to partnership within the portfolio as well. So make sure that you assess the portfolio of these investors and see where can you draw synergies from. I'll give you an example. In our portfolio, we have a company called VBout. These guys are basically just an excessively hyper digital marketing company. They do your email campaigns, they do your social, they do all sorts of things, and they're so helpful, and they add so much value to our portfolio, because I can tell you that we have close to 50 companies in the portfolio, and almost every single one of them works with them, because their product is just such a basic requirement for all the businesses. So make sure that there are companies in their portfolio from whom you can draw your synergies from. Another very important thing to talk about during your discussions with Series A is their LP network. So LPs are investors who invest in the fund. These are large financial institutions or large corporations or a large, just large family houses. So that network is very crucial as well, because that offers you market access. So let's say, for example, one of our larger LPs is the EMAR group, the Alabar group, and they are so diversified across retail, real estate. They're now entering e-commerce with Noon, and having an LP like that who is diversified across businesses can be very helpful to our portfolio companies, because it's almost like a workshop or a laboratory where you go in and you find so we open the door for you, you go in, test your product, we get the feedback if it was exceptional or if it didn't make the cut, and we pass it on, and you work on that feedback and you hone it. Doing that with in an open market where you don't have that support is very difficult, and I'm pretty sure most of you acknowledge that. So make sure that the LP, make sure you have that conversation as well, if the LPs can be of help, and figure out their follow-on capacity, because once you raise a Series A, and before raising Series B, there is more often than not, there is a bridge round. A bridge round is kind of like a smaller round where you go very aggressive on growth, and in that 3 to 6 month period, you really grow. And on the back of that, you get to Series B, because Series B is when you want to raise $30 million, right? 20, 30, $40 million. So you need very solid growth behind you, and there's more often than not a bridge round. These Series A guys should have the ability to follow on, to basically fulfill your appetite for the bridge. And when you raise Series B, a question that will always be asked is, are your Series A investors participating? If they're not, by the simple virtue of them not ever following on, then that's a very difficult thing to explain to Series B investors, that why are your existing investors not following on. So make sure the Series A investors have the capacity to follow on. So those will be the 4 key criteria for while you're picking your Series A investor. I want to talk about some of the options, and these are very crucial because, especially in the times that we've seen in the past 3 to 6 months, and we don't know how long this is going to sustain. I mean, the sooner that this ends, the better, but it's important to know some of these things. They're always, governments are always keen on providing some grants. So make sure you're on top of this. Make sure if you have a CFO, or if you have a head of investor relations, or if you have a founder yourself, make sure you know these people, make sure they're aware of you, and make sure that you're aware of the schemes, like for example, a lot of these government organizations, they tend to run grants for startups focused on education, on healthcare, or startups that have an impact angle. And maybe there is some dollars to be paid from there. So that is one. Quasi equity. This is not complicated, but it's a new discussion. So I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible. A lot of investors tend to not provide cash, but in exchange of cash, offer a service for which you would be paying cash in a normal environment. But they don't want your money; they want your equity. So one of the companies that do it locally here are MBC, which is a large media group. What they say is that they have a lot of these media properties like television. I think they have radio as well. They have a lot of print as well, I think. So what they say is that, I'm going to offer you, for example, $5 million worth of media. You don't have to pay for it. Just pay me $5 million worth of equity. What that does is it saves you a lot of cash. It saves you a lot of time to raise that cash. It gives you the capability that any business needs, which is marketing. You're immediately on the TV in advertisements, so people recognize you. And for user acquisition and adoption, it could be a great hack. You have to figure out how much you pay them in equity, but this is an option available if there's no cash available in the market. Of course, you can go by the crowdfunding route. That takes time to build. When you talk to your crowdfunding partners, make sure, so they'll give you a cap on the amount of money you have to raise, but make sure you have withdrawal agreements with them. So for example, if you're raising 1 million on the crowdfunding platform, a lot of times what happens is they raise $300,000, but you can't withdraw it. So make sure you have those agreements sorted where you say that, you will withdraw in 4 tranches of $250,000 each. So that's another option available. And finally, debt, which is difficult for startups. But now there are companies like Silicon Valley Bank who set up shop here in Dubai, who offer debt stroke mezzanine-like products. And you can look into those options as well. I haven't mentioned it here because they're an investment company, but you must have heard about ADIO in Abu Dhabi as well, and they offer great terms, in terms of investment. They offer you the services of Hub 71, which is a shared working space. They match some of the money that you've raised already. So that's for a UAE startup, that's a very good option. So that's my summary on the options. I want to quickly talk about preparation. I'm wary of the time. It's 12:45, so I want to give some time to Q&A as well. But very quickly on preparation, at every stage, the 3 things that is very important. One, your North Star. Make sure you define it. Make sure you tell your investor, this is where I want to be at. This is the amount of time I'll take to get there. Those things are very important, very crucial. Do not compromise on that. At all stages, at angel, seed, series A, further down, make sure you define your North Star and make sure you're obsessed with it. Devise a business plan around it, okay? So let's say your North Star is, I want to get to $100 million of GMV by the end of next year. Make sure your business plan is built around it. But make sure you can explain to the investor, why do you want to get to $100 million here, GMV? Why not 200? Why not 300 million? And make sure you prepare your answers. One of the simple answers for a $100 million number could be, you know what, at $100 million of GMV, I will have 1% market share. That is my target. At 1% market share, I'm really relevant for my vendors as well as for my users, if you're a marketplace. So make sure your business plan is built around that. And finally, sensitivities. Things happen, things change, business plan moves. So make sure when you're fundraising, you're stress testing your business model for all variables. What if you can't raise the $5 million you wanted? What if you raise 3.5? Can you still get your North Star? If not, what will that do to the business? So make sure that at all times you have these sensitivities built in the plan. You don't have to be a financial expert, frankly, to build these. Maybe later on, yes, but at least till Series A, it's very mathematical. We've done this basic mathematical Excel stuff. So you don't have to hire an investment banker at all to do some of these things. Just think about it mathematically, put it on an Excel sheet and make it flow. And make sure you capture all the variables of the. So that is about it. I think I've done wonderfully on time, I feel. We still have 12, 13 minutes. This is my message to all of you. Numbers are rising, stay home and be safe. And I'd like to open the forum for Q&A. How do we do this? Hisham, should I just?
Hi, Ankit. Thanks for the workshop. And yeah, you can just pick the questions from the Q&A box, and whichever you feel are relevant to answer, you can go ahead with those.
There is a few on the chat, and then there is a few on the Q&A. I should just go on the Q&A.
Yeah, because the chat ones we posted on the Q&A box as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the first question is from Adrian. He wants to know what GMV stands for. Okay, GMV is the gross merchandise value. It is the total value of products that is sold on the platform. More often than not, this is a very e-commerce KPI. A similar number for, let's say, if you are selling airline tickets, is GTV, which is gross transaction value, which basically is the total value of airline tickets or hotel bookings that you've sold. I hope it answers the question. How long the VC process takes from application to secure funding? This is an anonymous attendee. Differs for different stages. Angel can be an ongoing process, but should be done in 3 months. Seed again should be done in 3 months, but that's a should be. More often than not, doesn't happen like that. So I think one of the things that you have to remember and keep in mind is that the average time taken to fundraise in MENA is slightly longer than what you may see outside. So make sure that some of on your personal side, and this is very important, a lot of people forget this, but on your personal side, make sure you're covered, because the process may take long. I can tell you that for Series A, it can take up to 4 months to close investments. Like from the point of me meeting you to the point of you getting the dollar could be 4 months. Okay, the next one is from Renu Sehgal. She says, what do you have to say, trend or the ecosystem around women founded business seeking investment? Okay. Luckily, or as a good news, I think of late there have been some very interesting developments with the founding of Mindshift Capital. I think it's headed by a wonderful person by the name of Heather Hennon. This is a fund that is devoted to investing in women founders and co-founders. I'm unaware of some of the recent investment activity, but that is one. And the second option is, of course, Bumina. They've been around for so long, and I think they're doing incredible work in I think they're still trying to play somewhere between an accelerator and a sandbox, but again, the environment that they create and the support that they offer is incredible. So those will be the two options in UAE. The next question is from Ahmed Al-Nakwi. What is the recommended company for seed? 500 Startups, Ahmed. It's a company called 500 Startups. They're very popular, they're a global outfit, and in MENA they're very active. Or if you have an interesting business, feel free to reach out to me as well. The next question is from Harish. He says, do you think there are not enough VCs in the MENA region? And if so, why no? I think there's a lot of VC money in this region. I think between Saudi, Egypt, UAE, there is at least, if I'm not wrong, there could be almost $1 billion of VC money available. There's STB in Saudi. We're sitting on $500 million. We have around 120, 130. RTO has a lot of money. There are smaller funds in Egypt like Algebra who are deploying. I think there's almost $1 billion of VC money available in MENA. Renu Sehgal, one more question. Pitch deck, the know-how. What are your comments on creating the perfect pitch deck? What is the importance you rate a pitch deck plan before you even start to seek investment? It's very crucial. It's very crucial. And I'm going to give you a mantra, at least something that I look for in a pitch deck. For me, it's never the what, it's always the why. So that deck should be able to tell me, why is it that Renu Sehgal wants to devote the rest of her life in solving that problem? And not about what are you going to do to make it happen. So I need to know what is the problem, what is the need, what is the gap, and then why is that such a pressing problem? And it could be just identifying issues around supply chain or lack of technology awareness in sectors. But for me, it's almost always about the pitch deck should always be about why is it that this problem needs to be solved. Anonymous attendee wants to ask, can you suggest some open source tool that help profile investors to find those targeted to the venture stage sector job? Open source tools, you could look at Crunchbase. I think that's a decent way to, that's a decent point to start. But honestly, I think just efficient searches on LinkedIn. Basically, if you're looking for open source, that's the open source, right? Rashid, do you advise to show a realistic business forecast to the potential investor? Is it good to keep it a bit pessimistic? No, don't be pessimistic at all. Don't be realistic at all. Like I said, it's the North Star. Think as big as possible. Think as aggressively as possible. But let's not look unreasonable. You know, don't say that I can get to like $1 trillion of business. That's not really what they're looking for. And make sure when you're drafting some of these plans, they're all comparables in the public market space. So they're listed companies. So if you're a SaaS company, there are a whole lot of SaaS companies that are listed in the US. You can open their annual reports and see how they've scaled. You can look at their listing documents that will talk about their past 5 years before listing, and you can see how they've scaled. So that's a good point of reference. Paula Newby, she also asked, how has the pandemic impacted the appetite within the investor community? Are people being more cautious? For us, it has not impacted us at all. We've been very busy, and I think the founders and the entrepreneurs have been very busy. And I think the past 4 months for me have been the busiest 4 months that I've ever spent in MENA. So no, the action has not curtailed. We are still deploying, we're still investing, we are still getting approvals, and we are almost always making announcements. The last question, it seems, is from Neha Gagar. She wants to ask, what is generally the equity range that can be shelled out in the different stages? So, Angel, you should raise up to 500K, around 500K. Your seed, again, you know, I'm giving you median numbers. Your seed could be 1.5 million, I think, yes, going up to maybe 2. And your Series A has to be 5, going up to 7. But don't go beyond these. I mean, if you're going on the higher side of the median, be ready to be diluted as well, because that money is at a cost, and that cost is the equity. However, I think if you're in a scenario where you can raise 5, but you're getting 7, I think you should still take the 7. But let's say if you're getting 8, then keep that extra 1 million for a bridge, and say, or get that at a higher valuation. If you're getting 8 and you want 5, it means that you're really onto something. My mantra to all my entrepreneurs is always be raising. Always be raising. If you close the round yesterday and today an investor comes, take that money. Take it at the terms you wanted, but take that money. If yesterday you closed the round at $50 million valuation and a new investor comes today, that investment process is going to take 2 months to close. Make sure you close that extra $2 million, but make sure you raise it at 60. So of course, leave some room for oversubscription. But if you're getting money even beyond that oversubscription, just redo the terms of the round. And if an investor who's really keen on you, he'll take the premium on the investment. So look, I think that's pretty much it, right? I think, yeah.
Yeah, those are all the questions. You know, before we wrap up, any final pieces of advice for the audience, Ankit, you know, in terms of how to approach the fundraising game?
Yeah, this will not be my final advice, but I think one of the things that I always share with entrepreneurs who are new in the game is it's a very humbling process. Okay, a no is not a rejection. A no is 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 just it's just two people not being able to agree to pursue the same vision. So do not ever let a feeling of rejection come to you at all. Uh, the founder of Slack, for example, had I think half a dozen failed startups behind him. That is what you want to. That is what you. It's not what you want to aspire for. Not at all. I'm not trying to say that, but that is what having something like that in your perspective will give you a wholesome perspective. Things click immediately. Things take time to click. Things don't click, and then later on they click on something new. So to have a full perspective and a wholesome perspective of how fundraising and doing startups can mean is also having having that possibility at the back of the mind that something may not work, but you'll go again. You'll go faster and harder the next time over. So, so just keep plugging away, be very resilient, have a lot of tenacity, and uh, and if you're a tech entrepreneur, there's only one truth in the world, and that is to ship products and ship features and deliver experiences. That should be the mantra. And yeah, I hope that that connects with the audience, and I hope they understand what I'm trying to say.